What's going on, guys? Blaine Duncan here from the Halloween Lives podcast, joined by my brother and co-host Austin Duncan. What's up, bud? How you doing?
Dude, so good. Super pumped to be back doing this. Really happy with how the first one came out, and I'm looking forward to doing this one. I think we got a pretty fun episode.
We do, yeah. We're actually gonna be ranking the series today, and like our own versions of what we think is the best movies versus maybe the ones that aren't so good. And I will say, it's probably something that we need to talk about is that, like, I love all of the Halloween movies. There's no question that I love all the Halloween movies. Just because something is ranked low on our list doesn't necessarily mean that we like hate it, that it's like, we would never watch it again, whatever that might be. It's just not going to be our favorite. Just like, the top ones are going to be the movies that we'd really like to watch a lot. The bottom ones, we could take them or leave them. But at the end of the day, they're Halloween movies, and that's what we're here for.
Ultimately, there's a 100% chance I'm watching all of these movies in October. So none of these lists, like you're saying, like it doesn't matter if they're at the bottom of the list. They're still a Halloween movie. They're still my favorite franchise of movies. So absolutely. Yeah. And Lord knows we're gonna have some different picks. I'm on the Michael Myers Reddit, and people are always throwing out their tier lists, rankings of the movies, and there's always it's always a topic of discussion. So I'm excited to get into it.
Well, and here's the thing too, is like, so when we were talking about doing this podcast, you had sent me like your ranking, and we were probably just talking, or we were doing whatever we were talking about the series, and you sent me your ranking, you texted it to me, and I was like, no, I don't want to see it. And like, I immediately responded back with like 5 or 6 texts to try to get it to move up my phone so I couldn't read it. So you and I genuinely don't know exactly where our lists rank, or where the lists of all the movies rank, but I probably have a good idea of maybe like where your top 3 are and maybe your bottom couple. But as we get into the middle, that's what's going to be kind of exciting for me, is I don't even necessarily know where you ended up. So it's going to be fun to see that. And to your point, like, we are, we're obviously huge Halloween fans. Every October, I watch every single one of these movies, and something to know about me in particular, and I think you're very similar. Like, I don't watch the series outside of October. And that's probably, some people are like, oh, wait, this is your favorite franchise, this is your favorite series, your favorite horror movies. Yeah, it is 100%. But doing it during October, watching these movies only during October, just makes them so much more fun, because you can almost like for me, I like put myself in the shoes of the characters. And it's like, what if this was real? What if this was actually happening? Because it would be happening during this time, or happening during October. And it's a fun way to do it. I originally had started out just doing it with the original 1978 film, and only watching that on Halloween. And I think by doing that, it added like a sort of some magic to the movie in a way. Like, it's just easy to, again, put yourself in the shoes of the characters and experiencing it, and knowing that it's happening on Halloween night. So that is, you and I are probably strange in that way, that it's like, it's our favorite series, but we only really watch it 1 month out of the year.
I think there's something so different about watching it as the leaves are orange, as I don't know, as like you're saying, as the movies are taking place. It is weird that we only watch it in October. But I would argue that watching it in October is a completely different experience than watching it, in July.
Absolutely. 100%.
It gets me so hyped for the actual day of Halloween. Now, because I do the same thing too, the only day of the year I watch John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween is on Halloween. So in this weird way, I kind of watch them in this totally messed up order throughout October. So it's been a long, long time since I've kind of watched them in order. But you see them enough times, you can piece the puzzle together.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think I have a rough idea of where your first few are, and a rough idea of where your last ones are. But I think in the middle is where things are going to get really interesting.
I agree. And I'll have you know that, like, even up until literally about 20 minutes before we started filming this, I was still going through and rearranging some of them, because what I found is that I know what my last few that I'm not a big fan of. And then I know which ones I'm a huge fan of. but there is that middle part where it's just like so many of them are interchangeable, and like I might have it listed at 6 today, but tomorrow it's number 9 or whatever that might be. So as I get into the middle, that's where it's going to get a little interesting. And to your point, I think that's going to be where it's really going to be fun to hear where each other are coming from and what the series, what it means to us at each movie and at each kind of, turn and different rankings. So I say, let's get into it, man. We have 13 Halloween movies as of, this past Halloween of 2022 when Halloween Ends came out. And, obviously we're including the, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. We're including the Rob Zombie film. So everything, all 13 films. And I'm going to start things off. Austin's going to kind of move things around and track things and keep it somewhat visual for those of you who are actually watching this as opposed to listening. But I'm going to start out, and my first shot I'm taking is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That is my least favorite of the series. And, there's just so much to that movie that I think is just left up for, sort of the vision that Rob Zombie really had for Michael Myers in the series. And it's not something that I necessarily like. I don't like how they explored Michael so much. I don't like how they really showed his backstory. I mean, they obviously really showed his backstory in the 2007 Halloween remake, but in Rob Zombie's 2, there was just like the white horse thing. And I didn't like what they did with Dr. Loomis and how he became like this asshole character who was just full of himself. And I just didn't like that side of those characters. I think it just went too far. And I'm not saying Halloween 2 is a bad movie. I know there's some people out there who absolutely hate it. I'm not saying that at all. There's a time and a place for me when I really do actually enjoy watching it. And I even, I texted you not too long, like it was a month and a half ago or so. So not even in the Halloween season. And I was like, man, I really want to watch Halloween 2 tonight for some reason, like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I don't know what it is. Like, I have to be in the right mood for it. And I obviously am during the Halloween season, which is when I always watch it. But there was just something about that movie that it just didn't jive for me. It didn't click. It just didn't do much for me. I think visually and like some of the scenes in it, like the Halloween party and things like that, like the band that's playing up on stage and this gigantic Halloween party that's happening in this town. Like, I loved that feel. I love the way that, really that the whole like Haddonfield, the look of Haddonfield in that movie, like with the town square and the giant pumpkin and things like that. Like, I absolutely love that. But overall, the film to me is a giant swing and a miss. I did like the mask. I know we're going to do some mask rankings like down the road. We'll do another episode like this where we kind of go through and show the different rankings. But this is kind of where I ended up. And what is, where do you feel about Halloween 2 without kind of giving away where it lands? I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
So Halloween 2, for the longest time, I couldn't get into it. It felt like Rob Zombie kind of did his best to stay faithful to the John Carpenter original with the first film, and the second film was sort of his opportunity to get creative and let it fly. And that's awesome. And that's something we talked about last week too, was I love when people take shots at creating something new in this universe, because there are a lot of movies that follow the same formula. But I gotta agree with you. Halloween 2 is a big swing and a miss for me. The white horse stuff. I just am not a fan of the character of Laurie in that movie. Hard person to like be your protagonist, be somebody you're rooting for in that movie. I just find her unlikable in that movie. But yeah, no, Halloween 2 is definitely towards the end. It's not my number 13.
Let's hear it, man. I want to hear what it is, because I think I know what it is, but I want to hear it for myself.
So I think there's only one way to say it: trick or treat, motherfucker. And it's not Rob Zombie, Halloween Resurrection, Halloween 8, featuring the one, the only Busta Rhymes. It is by far such a letdown, because the idea in and of itself. So this is coming out right after like Blair Witch Project. So you've kind of got this like found footage, new formula in Hollywood for horror. I mean, it's one of the best formulas for horror, and it continues to this day. And I think they had such a great opportunity to do something with that. This was sort of testing the waters. We ended up getting it way more in Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, but to go back into the Myers home, and they kind of did what Rob Zombie did, and they kind of gave him this effed up background where he's like he's got like a kid's high chair with like it's got like
chains and all kinds of shit connected to it.
And so that, like, I always forget that that's in that movie because I probably watched this one the least. But it's just such a bad movie, dude. And Jamie Lee Curtis was just shoehorned in there.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
Like there's a story there that we can get into when we do a deep dive on that episode, but they use her for all the marketing. I mean, she's front and center on the knife and the poster. And then she's only in the movie for about 10 minutes, and it's stupid. She kisses Michael, and it's just weird, and I hate it. The only cool part to me is that opening scene when he hands the knife to like the John Wayne Gacy looking guy. Just kind of cool. That scene, but like literally from there on, just horrible. Like the main girl in that movie, they had to dub in all of her screams because the actress couldn't scream. Just so bad throughout the whole thing. I will say the burn mask at the end, really cool. I'd love to do my own version of that and have it up here at some point. But yeah, dude, Halloween Resurrection, big pile of D for me. So I'm going to put that at number 13. That being said, still going to watch it every year for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. No, I you couldn't have said it better, or I couldn't have said it any better myself. I think, and you can go ahead and just make my next selection, which is Halloween 8, Halloween Resurrection. I totally agree with everything that you said. I will continue to watch it because it's a Halloween movie, but it was very, and so Halloween Resurrection, I think I talked about this in the last episode, but Halloween Resurrection was the first Halloween movie that I actually got to see in the theaters. I was still too young when The Curse of Michael Myers came out, just 7 or 8 years before that, whatever it was. So I was too little at that point. And or no, I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Halloween H2O. I saw Halloween H2O on rental, but I got out of the video store. But Halloween 8 was the first movie that I actually saw that was in the theater, and I remember it was just such a disappointment because at that point I had already seen every movie, at that point up until basically H2O or until H2O, but I was so disappointed by it. I do love the scene that you're talking about where like he hands the knife to John Wayne Gacy, or the John Wayne Gacy character, I should say, the guy with the mask. And one of the scenes that I think is actually where they really, really hit the mark on it that I love. And even if I'm watching the movie and I'm kind of like only half paying attention, like if I'm on my phone or I'm on my computer or whatever it is, and I'm watching it, there's one scene in that movie that always makes me stop and watch it because I think it's done so well. And that's the scene where like it's Halloween night. And if I remember right, like the sun is starting to set and like the kids run up and like the kid puts the jack-o'-lantern on the front steps of the Myers house. Like I thought that was really cool and really well done because it was almost like this tribute to Michael Myers. And I envision that if this was real, that the kids of the town would probably try to keep up like the legend of Michael Myers. And like I can just talking about like, going and putting a jack-o'-lantern on the front steps or the porch of the Myers house in order to keep Michael at bay or to make sure that Michael doesn't come and visit you that night, whatever that might be. And I just thought that was super cool, that whole scene. I thought the casting in that movie, absolutely dog shit. It was not great. There were a few characters that I thought did a really nice job, but there were several like, dude, the whole Freddy character is just so bad. Like, and that was that like era and that day and age where a lot of those rappers were trying to get into like making movies, and it was just easy to get into like horror movies because they're usually a little bit, they're looked down upon, right? So there's not always people that are, going to criticize them too much if they would do a horror movie, because it's like, well, it's just a horror movie. I mean, he's not starring in Saving Private Ryan, right? So
Right.
by taking on Halloween 8, nobody's really going to think about that, but dude, it was just so bad. And like that scene, that trick or treat motherfucker scene, that is a terrible. I mean, like people want to talk about Halloween Ends and like how Corey Cunningham basically kicks Michael's ass and like pushes him to the ground and stuff. But like you have
He wasn't
Freddy,
making kung fu noises,
dude. He literally roundhouse kicked Michael Myers, and it was like, what is going on here? It was so over the top. It was so fake. And I just again, total swing and a miss, which is really unfortunate because you had Rick Rosenthal who directed it, and he also directed Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2 in 1981, and like Halloween 2 is an awesome film. So I don't really know what was going on at that time. Like, I don't know if there were, if they were just trying to take the series in a different direction or what it was, but it was not good. You talked about Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, you're totally right. They marketed it as like Jamie Lee Curtis. And I remember when reading the script as before the movie actually came out. And so I knew that she was going to get killed off, but before going into reading the script, I had no idea that she was going to get killed off that fast. And I was so disappointed when it was like, you literally have like your ultimate character in this movie, and she's going to get whacked in like the first 10 minutes of the film. Just terrible. The whole kiss scene, I agree. Like, dude, what are we doing? Michael,
yeah.
like, and it was, I do understand it was supposed to be like some artsy kind of like dramatic moment of like, Judas kissing Jesus. And, that was like, I think that was kind of what they were going for. And it was like her last kiss with her, of her brother. And it was weird. Super, super weird. The only thing, the other thing I did want to mention about Halloween 8, since we've both already talked about it, is, how like Michael was living in the under the house. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like that idea. Like, I didn't hate that because it gave an explanation as to what happens to Michael throughout the franchise and the series when we're not seeing him, right? Because we're not getting a new Halloween movie every year. So it's like, well, where the hell does this, white-faced, white-masked guy go when it's not Halloween? And I thought that whole idea of like the fact that he was living underneath the house was kind of cool. Like it was a little bit of like the kind of what we got with the remake of the 2009 Friday the 13th. It was a little bit like that in that sense, but it was good because it gave that explanation to it. The last thing I do want to mention on Halloween 8, and then I'll throw it back to you, is the mask. And I know we talked a little bit about the mask in the last episode. Was not a huge fan of the mask. It was very, it was like I call it the GQ Michael Myers mask. Like, it was just these super perfect eyebrows, and like his skin was super soft and shiny, and it was just like the mask skin was super soft and shiny. And it was just very weird. And if you looked at the actor, I think it was Brad Loree, I believe is the name of the actor in that he had like black around his eyes. It was very strange, like his look. But if you actually take that mask and you hold it up against the original, there are a lot of very similar features of that mask. There were just certain things that they tweaked on it that made it kind of gave it its own look. And I didn't care for it.
Yeah, no, I continue to believe that Halloween Resurrection on paper could have been a cool movie. It was just executed poorly, and I think it was just done to make money. So I'm going to go in with my number 12 here, and this is where it's going to start to piss other people off. But I'm going in with Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills was, for me, one of the most disappointing Halloween movie watching I've ever had. I went into that with such high hopes after Halloween 18 because I truly think Halloween 18 is one of the best in the franchise. And to see what happened in Kills, and my problems with Kills are not Michael Myers. The scenes with Michael Myers going around town killing people, great, awesome. I love the scenes. Especially like the one with the fluorescent light going through the neck. And obviously you have the kids in the Halloween 3 masks that get murdered. More so, the problem I have with this movie goes with the Evil Dies Tonight crowd that was done in Halloween 4, but so much better in Halloween 4. This mob that gets started is ridiculous. The whole side character of the other escaped patient from Smith's Grove, all the sidetracks of that movie, I hated. I think the acting was bad. I don't even know. Like, this movie is so meh to me that I'm struggling to come up with like a great reason why I hate it so much. And again, hate is in comparison to the other movies, but it really missed the mark for me. I had such high hopes after 18, and I know people love kills. There are people who love kills because it's literally Michael Myers going around killing for the entire movie, and Michael Myers is, for the most part, the main character. But I can't get behind a lot of what happens in that movie. There are some awesome scenes, like the firefighter scene right off the bat. But the Evil Dies Tonight, and the whole character of Tommy Doyle is ridiculous and overacted. And the supporting characters of that movie really bring it down for me. What do you think of kills, man?
Well, again, our lists are our lists are matching up, because that's actually next on my list of not my favorites. I'll still continue to watch them. I did watch Kills this last year. Halloween Kills is there was so much potential for it, I think. And to your point, like, there are a lot of people that are probably watching this or listening to this right now, and they're like, what are these freaking dudes talking about? Like, this was a brutal Michael Myers movie. What do you want from a Michael Myers movie? He was just going around and slaughtering people. True, but did he do that in Halloween 1978? No, and it holds up as a classic. Even though he didn't kill a ton of people, it was still a Michael Myers movie. And that's kind of the way that I look at Kills, is like, yeah, that's awesome. We got some great kills in this movie. But it was just so over the top. It was so overdone. The Evil Dies Tonight thing was so fake, was so like, the first time I heard it, I was like, I remember you and I saw it in the theater, and I remember looking at you being like, what the frick, or what is like this? It's just so fake sounding.
It's such a cheesy movie.
It is 100%. And like, for me, I look at it as like it's a lot of the writing, like the writing in the film, just bad. Like, it was bad. I don't know. Like, there were some cheesy lines in 18. There were some cheesy lines in Kills, but it was like they went heavy on the cheese in did I say Kills? In Halloween,
I know what you meant.
So in Halloween 2018, there was some cheesy lines, and then in Halloween Ends, there were some cheesy lines. But in Halloween Kills, there were, like, it was just over the top. It was way too much. The Evil Dies Tonight stuff, it was terrible. The scene with Tommy Doyle giving like this whole speech about the boogeyman, and like, it was just like, if I was sitting in a bar, I would be like, what?
Like, yeah, like, he's coming for me, and
is this guy for real? Yeah, like, somebody get this dude out of here before he kills everybody. Like, I would be like, this dude is off his rocker, you know. And so I didn't care for it. Laurie, some of the dialogue that Laurie had, that Jamie Lee Curtis had in the film, was really bad. I thought
also the hospital Laurie went to, sign me up. She got stabbed and made a full recovery, in like 5 hours. Right.
She was literally getting ripped open in surgery. She was getting all this work done to her, and then literally like 3 hours later, she's up like walking around and like arguing with staff, and I'd be like, sit down. And then, oh dude, and then the scene when she like injects herself with the whatever it is that she injects, I was like, what? Who the hell, like, did they not run this by any person who has any sort of like medical background or experience at all? Like, first off, how did you get that? Right? They don't just let that shit sit out. No. Secondly, you're taking a needle and like literally jamming it into your ass as hard as you can. That's not good. That's not good.
The noise she makes, I gotta get a soundboard. First of all, we gotta get totally on the soundboard. Second, we got to get that like, oh, she makes when she stabs herself in the ass.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Last thing I ever wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
But it was like, what are we doing here? You know? And then, so we've talked about the shitty things of Halloween Kills, but a couple of things that I really did like in the film was I cannot get over or stress enough how much I love the Big John, Little John, and the idea that the Myers house is now back in the movie. And it's like, dude, it's part of the town again. It's just like a regular house that obviously had this horrific history. They've changed it. They know the history of the house. They know that Michael Myers lived there. They kind of have created this like ghost story of Judith, you know, and they're scaring the kids that they can hear Judith's voice. Dude, that was freaking awesome. I absolutely loved it. And dude, we are completely forgetting about the whole flashback scene. Jesus Christ, it's like the best part of the whole film, and we haven't even talked about it.
I know. I was thinking about that while you were talking.
The flashback scene, the way that movie opened up, like literally when we were sitting in that theater and they did the flashback scene, I was like, holy shit. This is going straight to the top. Like this is going to be at the top of my list, and this is going to be awesome. You know, they did such a phenomenal job at the flashback scene. The Dr. Loomis character, the way that they found like I had heard, I forget exactly what this dude was doing, but like this guy was just like working on the set of Halloween Kills, and they were like, somebody was like, he kind of looks like Dr. Loomis, doesn't he? He looks like Donald Pleasance, and they were like, holy shit, he does. And so, because I think they were planning on doing some sort of like CGI, like whatever, you know, they were going to do something like that with Dr. Loomis, or that's my understanding. And then they saw this dude, and they're like, "Damn, this guy could be Loomis." But so awesome. The flashback scene. Talk about the flashback scene because it is so badass,
dude. I mean, like you said, we were in the movie theater together, and when that flashback scene came on, like the entire time, I was like looking at the screen and then looking at you because I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was like finally getting to see it was like getting a deleted scene from 1978's Halloween, and it was so well done. The makeup, like you're talking about on Loomis, incredible. I thought it was deep fake technology, and no, it was incredible how good that scene. Did Michael kill again? It was amazing. The first 20 minutes or, you know, whatever, 15 minutes of kills is incredible. And I would rather watch that on repeat than have to watch Resurrection, but it's still part of the deal. That is a really good point. Kills does have one of the best openings in any of the movies.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like, obviously based on our ranking, Kills falls towards the end, right? But like there are some awesome parts about that movie there, you know, and it's like, if you were to sit down and weigh out the pros and cons, there would be more cons for me and you most likely than there are pros, but it's a cool movie. Like you said, the whole like opening or the firefighter scene when he escapes and stuff like that, like that's badass. I love the fact that he is brutal. There's no question. He takes his brutality to a completely different level in Kills. So yeah, I mean, we'll obviously do a deep dive on all of these movies at some point, and we can talk more about this in detail. But yeah, that's Halloween Kills is on my list next for number 11. What do you got?
And so I guess one thing that I'd like to point out is all the good things we've talked about, what we do like about Kills. It's not that it sucks. It's just that the rest of the movies I love so much more. And for me, it's one that we've talked about already. It's Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is coming in at number 11 for me. We've already talked about it. I just have a lot of issues with that movie. Again, it's kind of like Kills, where I love that opening dream sequence with Laurie in the hospital, and it feels very much like 1981's Halloween 2. But it's just I hate that Michael speaks. There's just so much that's weird about that movie. Love the way he looks. That's one of my Hobo Myers is badass.
Yeah, that was cool. I agree.
The characters are unlikable, especially like the coroner's office people that like pick him up and are talking about having sex with the dead, you know, bodies, and it's ridiculous. But that is one of the most brutal kills when he gets like I don't know if it's a piece of the window.
It's a glass. Yeah. He cuts his head off with the glass. Yeah,
that is pretty sweet. But yeah, we've talked about Halloween 2. It's just it's another one that I appreciate that they did something different, but it's just not for me. So
one thing that I was just thinking of when you mentioned like the hobo Michael Myers, that one of my favorite scenes, much like Resurrection, where like anytime I'm watching it, if I'm really not paying attention or I'm doing something, and like one of the scenes that I always stop to watch because it's just such a cool scene in my mind is it's the scene where Dr. Loomis, Malcolm McDowell, he's giving a speech, and somebody asks him if Michael Myers is still alive, and I'm gonna get wrong what he says here, but it's something like get this through your thick skulls, he's dead, DEAD. He says something like that, and while he's saying that, it like shows like Michael walking through that field, and it's just like, and it's like the sun is going down. It's just every time I see that, I'm just like, damn, that is cool. That is super cool.
One thing I'll say about every Rob Zombie movie is the imagery is always top tier. It's always nightmarish, very cool. And if you want a Halloween movie to just kind of throw on in the background and catch glimpses of, Halloween 2 is a great one for that. So
right.
What's your number 10, man?
All right. Ready to piss some people off?
Yeah.
Because this is one that a lot of people hold in really high regard. And again, I'm not shitting on it. I'm not saying I would never watch it again. If I could only watch this movie for the rest of my life, it was the only Halloween film I could ever watch, I'd be just fine with it. But Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Whoa!
How's that? How is that for a shocker? Yeah. So Rob Zombie's Halloween. Dude, here's the thing. I am just such a fan of the classic Michael Myers, right? I love the 80s Michael Myers. I love all the, just the whole history and the lore and kind of who he was, even though the movies may not have been totally connected, like how H2O completely ignored 4 and 5. Like, even though they weren't connected, it was still like the same Michael Myers. Like that's who it was. It was the exact same Michael Myers. And Rob Zombie's Halloween just, I was just like, why are you telling so much of this story? Why? Please, can we just not for one film, Rob Zombie, can we not have like a bunch of hillbilly rednecks? Like, please, for the love of God, can we just like, can this just be a suburban family? Like, I don't even necessarily mind the fact that he was like this sort of like abused kid and he was just treated like shit, but like, dude, they took it to an absolute extreme, like that, like Ronnie, the dad or the stepdad, what a pile of shit. Like, he made me want to fucking kill somebody. Yeah. And like, it was so bad. And the other thing is too, is like, God bless her, but Sherry Mood Zombie is a terrible actress. I'm sorry, she is, and I know he casts her in every single film that he does. Really, the only movie I've ever really liked that she's in, where she's like one of the main characters, is now I'm blanking on the name. What am I trying to?
The radio. The
right? Why am I blanking? It's Lords of Salem. Jesus.
Lords of Salem.
Yeah. That's like the only movie that I actually really like. I will watch it year after year, and I actually do enjoy it. Even though the acting in that is not great from her either. But yeah, dude, Rob Zombie's Halloween. They just gave away too much. I love the idea that they had, it was almost like two different movies in a way, and that you almost could start like I would rather watch the second half of the film than the first half. And that's just the way that I am. Like, I feel like when I watch it, I'm always like, when it becomes like current day, that's when I get into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. As somebody who does like the movie, I really like freaked out at your response, but it's not that much higher for me. I think I was just shocked to hear it so soon. I will say, yeah, like that first half of the movie, I really enjoyed it when I was younger because I thought it was an interesting, like, new take. But the more I get older and the more I learn to appreciate what makes Michael Myers different than Jason Voorhees or different than Leatherface, is the unknown,
right?
And the fact that he's just the shape. And I think Halloween 2009 by Rob Zombie really does strip down a lot of that mystery. And I gotta agree with you, man, dude. The characters in this movie unlikable as it gets. I think Sheriff Brackett's pretty much the only one that I'm like all about. I think he's pretty cool.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean,
I liked it. I like the fact that they brought like Scout Taylor Compton. I appreciate the fact that she made it her own character. I love the fact that they brought back Danielle Harris to the series because I thought that was a really cool nod to what was going on before. But yeah, there are just like and I will say too, like Malcolm McDowell, he did he like Scout Taylor Compton, like he made that role his own. But I just man, I don't know. Outside of maybe a few of those characters, I did like the character Linda too. I mean, I guess the girls I liked them as a whole. I thought some of their lines and some of their, some of the dialogue in it just was super fake. Like I didn't. I mean, maybe I was hanging out with the wrong kind of girls in high school, but I never heard girls talk like the way those girls talked in high school.
no.
And it was just it just felt very fake to me in many different ways. And I love the idea that they kind of showed the mask in two different forms. Like they showed the original kind of like hero mask, if you will, where it was like the clean version of the mask, and then obviously as you transitioned into the later years, it was disintegrating and it was kind of falling apart. Even though I think the Christopher Nelson mask from the Halloween, the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy is far better as far as like a decomposing mask. I did like that idea that it was just a little bit different. I thought like the character, the big semi truck driver who was like living past this beast. Yeah, Joe Grizzly, bitch. I liked that character and like how they explained how Michael got his jumpsuit or his coveralls, I guess. I thought that was cool. But again, we're going to take a super deep dive into that. Obviously, we're going to get to this movie again when you make your pick or when that falls in. But what do you got next?
All right. For me, this is where it starts to get really tough because genuinely all the movies that I've got here, not there,
It's me.
but there. All the movies that I've got here at this bottom of my list, I do love all of these. But as far as the one that I love the least, I got to go with Halloween 5. Halloween 5, it's by no means like a trash Halloween movie, but it's very forgettable. I think it's one of the most forgettable in the series. There's some really cool imagery. I'm not a huge fan of the mask in that movie. He's got this like big ass neck. But I will say Michael holding the pitchfork, the whole barn scene I actually really enjoy. I think that's some of Loomis's. I mean, it's Donald Pleasance's probably biggest action scene in any of the movies, unless he did jump from an exploding gas station in 4. So
you can't forget about that. Yeah,
right. But five for me is just it's the most meh, the most blah of any of the Halloween movies. There's some cool stuff for sure. But I wish they would have stuck with what worked in 4 a little bit more. And I think it's, especially when you're looking at that Thorn trilogy, 5 is easily the most forgettable and absolutely out of like the originals. I'm so meh on it.
Well, and the thing is admittedly, like they rushed into 5. Like they had this huge success with 4, the return of Michael Myers. He was back. And at that time, they were obviously competing with Friday the 13th. They were competing with Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they wanted to continue this sort of war that they had going on with these other, 2 franchises. So they wanted to strike while the iron was hot. They wanted to get this, push out another movie, which only came out a year after Halloween 4 came out. And yeah, I mean, there is no question that it felt very rushed and it felt very I mean they had even started filming this movie before the script was finalized, before it was finished. So that's crazy to me.
No, it's definitely one of like the pre-production nightmare that's in taking shape. If you've ever read that book, which I highly recommend any fan of this series does, you really see how 5, it wasn't set up for success at all. And I think given the situation that they were in when they had to make this movie, it could have been a lot worse. Again, I just think it's very forgettable, very, very blah. And yeah, no, I put this down there. It needs to go up here. But yeah, no, it's a very blah movie. What would you do for your number 9 pick?
All right. So it's a 1-2 punch. That's really gonna knock people out. Okay.
Oh
So
God.
it's a 1-2 punch. So I had Rob Zombie's Halloween 10 or Halloween 10. I had Rob Zombie's Halloween at number 10. 1998's Halloween H2O.
Really? Interesting. Okay, explain why.
So here's the thing. Halloween H2O, fantastic film. I love it. I watch it every year. But again, we're kind of getting to that point where like you have to weigh it, like weigh the pros and cons of which films you really like and why you like them. This movie it does so well in so many different parts, but then there are other aspects to it where they just completely miss the mark. Like I cannot get over the fact that they royally fucked up Michael Myers' mask in this movie, like in so many different ways, dude. Like it starts out like the whole opening scene. Well, first off, okay, so let's go to the opening scene with Mr. Sandman playing, right? Fantastic. Like I am on board for this thing.
Yep.
Michael Myers shows up, and what mask does he have? He's got the Halloween 6 mask. It's like that mask. I mean, you can see it when there's the scene where he comes into the doorway, and yeah, the door opens up and you see him, and you're like, holy shit, that is awesome! Like they're using the exact same mask.
Great mask to use, by the way. 6 had a great mask.
Totally, yeah. I love the Part 6 mask. It had a different look to it, but it was cool. And then for some reason, they didn't like that mask. They didn't like the style. And you know way more about like that whole situation than I do. But it was very clearly they like punted and were like, well, we need to go back to the drawing board and get a different mask. And not only did they get a different mask, they had like, well, how many different masks were in that movie?
So there's the Halloween 6 mask. And then there is the sort of hero Halloween H2O mask, which is the one with the very big exposed eyes and kind of the Ellen DeGeneres hairdo. And then there is this one, and it looks like The Mask by Don Post Studios, and it's got this long neck. I believe it's called the K&B mask.
Yep.
And God, I can't tell you. There are people in the Halloween community, and I'm really sorry if you're one of those people listening or watching that absolutely love this mask. But I have to tell you, it's absolutely at the bottom for me. We'll see where it ranks when we do that. But God, I hate that mask. And then there's actually one 1998 CGI mask,
Horrible.
and it is something out of nightmares. It is absolutely.
You know what's crazy? You know what's wild about that though is that you were actually the one who told me that was a CGI mask. Like when you watch it, because it happens so fast, you see it, you're like, oh, it's Michael Myers, right? And then they cut real close to like he's like they cut real close to his eye, and you're seeing the reflection of, I think it's of Michael's eye of the kid that he's about to kill, or maybe it's vice versa. It doesn't matter, but you see that, and it was like. It happens so fast, right? And then the next thing you know is they're back to this other mask. But dude, that mask or that CGI, like when you stop it and you freeze frame it, it's like, what in God's name were they thinking? Like who actually signed off on this and said, hey, go ahead and set it to the theaters. This works,
I don't understand. Now I understand that movie productions are it can be very difficult to kind of piece something like that together, but seriously, whatever they were reshooting for, and that, because that's kind of what made all these masks happen, were reshoots. Nothing could be worse than that. No. I mean, even if it was one of the completely different looking masks, that would have looked better in that shot than whatever Microsoft Paint picture we got in that scene. It is horrible, and
it's terrible. But I mean, besides the masks, like the story is I love the story. I love the idea that they did get it away from Haddonfield, that it's like Jamie is she's found this new life. She's now Carrie Tate. She's the head mistress at this posh school in Northern California. I do like all of that. I like the way that I truly like the way that Michael is killed at the end of H2O, because it did add some finality to it. It was like, well, he just got his fucking head cut off. He's done, man. I mean, that's it. But he found his way to come back, as we've talked about, because he's he's James Bond, he's Dracula, he's Frankenstein. Like there will always be, Michael Myers movies. But I did like that. The movie itself, just like it's from that era. It was just it followed Scream, which I love Scream, but it was very clear like they were trying to mimic that in so many ways. By no means do I hate the film. It was really actually difficult to rank it where I ranked it, but that is where it falls on my list.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely has a different vibe than any of the other like original movies. But yeah, really, I'll have to talk about that more because it does land higher for me. For me though, at number 9, I'm putting in Halloween 6: The Curse of Michael Myers. And it's simply because of the evil Satan worship henchman pact thing that they shoehorn into that movie. I'm not a huge fan of that. With Michael Myers, it's sort of a choose your own adventure of what story you want Michael to have, what backstory you want him to have. This one just wasn't it for me. I love the mask. I think Paul Rudd kicks ass in that movie.
Best character in the whole movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, probably the best protagonist other than Laurie in any of these movies. And that both versions of Laurie, I should say, the Jamie Lee Curtis Laurie. Right under that for me is Paul Rudd, and then under that is Jamie Lloyd. But yeah, no, I seriously, again, this is kind of like H2O was for you. I have a hard time putting it this low because I do enjoy watching this movie. There's some awesome imagery I talked about in the last episode. I love Michael getting stabbed in the eyes and he's got like all like the green and yellow pus and shit coming out of his face. Love that. But yeah, I can't put it above any of the other movies that are coming up here on this list. And I this is how the list stands for me right now. What's number 8 for you?
So number 8 is a movie that we've already talked about a little bit. It's Halloween 5. I love this movie. I really do. I can definitely see where people don't like it and where they get annoyed by, a lot of different aspects of the film. It's obviously the introduction of the Thorn trilogy, but there is no question that, like we already talked about, like the movie just felt very rushed. I hated the fact that they killed off Rachel so early in the film because she was like such an awesome character to have actually, as part of this. And she did such a fantastic job. Ellie Cornell, she was, she played Rachel. She did such a good job in Halloween 4. And then to like kill her off the way that they did, it was just, I don't know. I hated it, even though I do like that scene. Like it's a very creepy scene to me, how she was, she's in the shower and then like she hears the dog barking and she goes out and like she realizes, oh, the dog was just after a squirrel or the dog had left and it would chase a squirrel. But then you have like something where like those two dork cops. Yeah. They're like playing like the like there's horns and shit going off and they come walking up and it was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? And so I absolutely hated that. Didn't care for that. I agree. Like the barn scene, like at the, Tower Farms, like they do that whole barn scene. That's fantastic. I love it. I love how the dude takes the pitchfork to the back when they're getting it on. And, like then the other character, she gets like slashed with the big, whatever the hell those things are called.
Yeah, like the scythe or whatever.
Yeah. I thought that was fantastic. People in this movie, like they hate the Tina character. Like people like freaking rage when you hear, like when you bring up Tina, it's like, oh my God, she was the worst character. She didn't bother me that much. I don't know why people, I mean, was she annoying? Yeah, she was kind of annoying, but that was supposed to be her role. She was supposed to be annoying. She was supposed to be like this high energy friend. One of my favorite scenes actually in that whole movie involves Tina though. And that's the scene where her boyfriend, Michael pulls up in like the black hot rod car. And it's actually Michael Myers wearing that like old man mask.
Yeah.
And she's like, Michael, open the door, Mike, Mike. And it's like, but it's actually Michael Myers. Like, I just thought that was really creative how they did that. But it's a great movie for me as far as like, I watch Halloween 5 for some reason. I watch that on Halloween every year. It's one of the few Halloween movies that I do watch every year. It's a tradition that I've always just been in. So maybe that's why it ranks a little higher for me, is that I watch it on Halloween every year. But it's I can definitely see why people don't like it.
Yeah. I will say that, like, another like good point is that scene where Rachel's death. You do get one of the only stalking scenes that you see in the later sequels in that scene. And yeah, no, like there's a lot of like tone problems with that movie, like you're saying.
Right.
For me, number 8 has gotta be where is it though? I don't have Halloween H2O. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. It is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Coming in at number 8 for me. Rob Zombie's Halloween was one of the movies that I really enjoyed growing up, because it did feel like my Michael Myers. And I love the sort of gargantuan Michael Myers that Tyler Mane plays in that movie. Obviously I love Joe Grizzly, bitch, and I like that the second half of the movie very much feels like the original 1978 film, and I like how true to that movie they were, but it did feel different enough. I think we've talked plenty about, you know, that first half and the problems we have with that first half, but there's so much I do love about that movie. Michael in his paper mache mask, all of that, just wonderful. But you know, obviously it doesn't hold a candle to some of the original and a couple, as you can see, a couple of these David Gordon Green movies that have come out recently. So what
I dig it, man.
What about number 7 for you, man?
So this was really actually this movie that I'm about to tell you went I guess however you want to look at it. It went deeper for me at one point where it was as high as number 5, and then I moved it to 6, and then it eventually ended up as number 7 for me. I still don't know that it's really like I said, like once we got to the middle, I was like, oh God, there's so many, like I could go so many different ways. But it's Halloween Ends. And Halloween Ends comes in at number 7 for me on the list. Like I said, it was at one point when I first created this list, it was higher. It was at number 5, or lower, I guess, however you want to look at it. Dude, I like Halloween Ends. I realize that I'm on like a completely separate island, and I know that you do as well. But I like it. It was different. It was different in a way that I felt like Rob Zombie's, Halloween 2 was also different, and Rob Zombie took a lot of liberties, as did Halloween Ends. But there was just like, I don't know. It was so like the cinematography, the music. I didn't hate the storyline between Corey and Allison. I know a lot of people were like, why did we get a love story in a Halloween film? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic, but I didn't hate it. It was like, it's not terrible, but I love the idea, the idea of this Corey Cunningham character. I thought that the actor did a fantastic job with it. Allison was an absolute sweetheart in this movie. It made me like fall in love with her watching this movie, because it was just like she had matured so much from Halloween 18 and then Halloween Kills, which was, obviously condensed and took place on the same night. But like you saw her mature, and you saw her grow, and you saw like the struggles that they went through were just, they were off her shoulders at this point. And Laurie had changed, and there was just so much that I loved about the movie. And when we saw it in the theaters, we saw it together, and I was just waiting to hate it. I was like, I heard so much bad shit about this movie. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking hate it just like everybody else. And I didn't. I was sitting there the whole time like, this is actually pretty good. Like I'm enjoying this. I really am. And like we talked about a little bit too, like I had forgotten, like I had a feeling when we left that theater, it was like like H2O, like there was a finality to Michael getting his head cut off. But man, you put Michael into a meat grinder, that's like game over. There's no coming back from that, right? I mean, I realize you can't come back from getting your head cut off, but there's no way to fix that. That ship has sailed. And so now I felt like this overwhelming sense of like almost sadness in a way. Cause it was like, holy shit, this is over with. This is done. And that really, that sucked. But I loved Halloween Ends. I wished that some of my biggest complaints, and probably the reason why it didn't end up, a little bit further along in my list, is the fact that Michael is just not in it very often. He's actually, I think somebody did like the runtime for as much time as Michael is in it compared to like the original in 1978. He's actually in it more, I believe, than he is even in 1978. But they just did such a better job in 78 of kind of having him be lurking in the background and just always like this presence. And but Halloween Ends, I love it. It's you see where it ended up on my list. I can't complain about a whole lot about it. So yeah, hit me, man. What do you got for 7?
All right. So for 7, and I have thoughts on Ends, but we're gonna get to them, but not yet.
Ooh, the suspense.
Yeah, 7 for me goes to the aforementioned, and that's the first time I've used that word in my entire life. Movie Halloween H2O.
Really, that surprised me. I figured that was going to be like in your top 5.
So for the longest time, I loved this movie. I seriously, and I think again because growing up, it was like, oh, this is like a newer Halloween movie, so I kind of felt like I connected with it more. I love this movie. I think it captures a lot of the tone of the first 2 movies. I think the way that they have Jamie come back is great. I think her son is great. I would love to see if maybe they'd want to continue the story with the son, but then we'd be dealing with Grandpa Myers again. Either way, LL Cool J sets the bar for rappers in Halloween movies, because I actually enjoyed his character quite a bit. I thought him and his wife on the phone bickering was great, and it kind of like, I will say that the
round
characters,
melon breasts, like that whole scene, I was just like, oh man.
Even though that's cheesy, like I buy it. Like it didn't seem like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I like the characters in this movie. I think the theme is really cool. They have like this kind of orchestral theme. Outside of the mask fiasco, everything else I really enjoy. I love the like laundry chute kill scene. I watched this past October, and after seeing Ends, the like final battle between Laurie and Michael feels way less like intense and epic compared to the final battle in Ends.
Right. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Also, this movie is short as hell. This movie flies by when you're watching it. I don't even know what the runtime is offhand.
I think isn't it only like an hour, like in 18 minutes or something like that? Like, and then with credits, it's like an hour 23.
Yeah, it is something like that. But the pacing is just so fast in that movie. I found myself this past watch in October going, holy shit, we're already to this scene. Like the original rest stop bathroom scene where Michael comes in is wonderful. There's a lot of suspense there. I'm a huge fan of H2O. It used to be way higher in my list, probably like in the 3 or 4 spot. But
that's why I was surprised when you said H2O. I was not expecting H2O yet, because I knew that you were a big fan of it.
In high school, it was probably my 3rd favorite. But yeah, no, I've just grown to appreciate other ones, and I think some of the newer entries have kind of pushed it down for me. So, where do we go at number 6?
Well, speaking of newer entries, I'm gonna go with a movie that is it lands, as you can see, right in the middle for me, is 2018's Halloween. I like this movie. Like I said with Halloween Ends, like I actually had Halloween Ends ahead of Halloween 2018 for a brief period of time when I was going over my list. The reason why it ultimately ended up changing was for the lack of Michael Myers in Halloween Ends. And I do think that Halloween 2018 does a really good job of like selling the franchise back to like a whole new fresh set of eyes, a whole new generation of, viewers, essentially. I mean, you have the younger generation, that new audience that's being introduced to Michael Myers. They did a great job. It's a fantastic job with it. I love what they did with Michael Myers, like how they show him at the the sanitarium at the beginning, that you have this this English couple that's there to do this documentary, or this audio documentary, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Well, podcast, I guess. We're doing an audio documentary right now, I guess. I'm an idiot. But they had this they were doing this podcast, and they were trying to get Michael to be interviewed with Laurie. They wanted to obviously interview Laurie at the beginning, and like the whole character of Laurie, I thought was a little bit over the top. Like I preferred the Carrie Tate character of Laurie in Halloween H2O as opposed to like this like crazed mad woman that we saw of Laurie in 2018. But I thought they did a really good job. I love the idea how Michael got his mask back. And there were just some really good nods to some of the previous movies, like the whole gas station scene that was obviously a clear nod to Halloween 4, and there were other scenes in there, but I thought the acting was overall really, really good. I thought it was really well done. For sure, far better script writing and dialogue than Halloween Kills. But overall, it was not a movie that I was just totally blown away with the first time that I saw it. Like it's actually taken several viewings. Like I've probably watched it 12 times now. I don't even know how many times I've watched it, but it's taken me all 12 to really get to the point where it's at for my list right now at number 7. Like I think it was one of those movies that when I first saw it, I was just like, man, that's kind of, I was disappointed by it. I thought there would be more to it, but it's taken me a little bit to grow, or for it to grow on me. Michael Myers, I thought was fantastic. James Jude Courtney is just a freaking hell of an awesome actor. Outside of Nick Castle, he's my favorite Michael Myers. I mean, it's a great movie. Definitely is not obviously in my top, my top 5, 6. It's 6 on my list. I thought it was at 7. Number 6. So it's not in my top 5, obviously, but that's where it is, and we'll do a deep dive into Halloween 2018 at some point, and I look forward to doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot to say on that one, and we'll be getting to that one on my list as well. For me, the next one coming up is the weirdest. If you're looking at this series, the weirdest entry, and that's because Michael Myers, outside of a TV screen, is not in this movie, and that's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. This is a movie that I didn't watch, period, until probably 5-6 years ago, and I think there's sort of been this reawakening to Halloween 3 that I've grown to appreciate as well, where people back in the day were all pissed off that Michael Myers wasn't in the movie. But I don't know what it was. A few years ago, the community started kind of bonding around this movie and loving it for what it is. And I think it's this really cool idea. Obviously, when Halloween originally came out, it was supposed to be this anthology series where each movie was different than the next. And every Halloween would be a different story revolving around the holiday of Halloween. And I think the super 80s, super sci-fi kind of weird vibes and the score of this film, it's so beautiful to me. It's so perfect.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I can't get enough. And obviously, our intro is very heavily based off of Halloween 3. Our logo right up here, very based off Halloween 3, everything. It's for the longest time, it was such an underappreciated film in the franchise, and I get why people get upset that it doesn't have Michael Myers. We love Michael Myers, but I love this movie too. So that comes in at number 6 for me. I think it's great. I think what's the main character's name? The mustache?
Dan Chalice.
Dan Chalice, bit of a pedophile, but we can get past that because the rest of the movie is pretty solid. What comes in at number 5?
So real quick on Dan Chalice. First off, Tom Atkins is the man, and if reincarnation is a thing, I want to come back as his mustache, because he is just that has there are some mustaches that are just beautiful, and Tom Atkins is, and he's actually a super cool dude. I met Tom Atkins a few years back, and he's super down to earth guy. Yeah, so for me, number 5 is a movie that ended up on your list at, where are we at here? At number 9. So it's Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Like I said, I had a really tough time. 5, 6, and 7 were for sure my hardest movies to decide on because they were so interchangeable. Like I kept going back and forth with them. But I really like Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. I know a lot of people hate that film. Again, Daniel Farrens directed it, and he took that sort of that Thorn trilogy thing, and he did his own thing with it. But I didn't hate it. I think it's a very like Halloween, as far as like the holiday Halloween feeling movie, and like they did a really good job. It was obviously filmed either in autumn or close to autumn, so it had that feel where, like, even like the 1978 movie, like it was clearly shot in the summertime or the spring or whenever it was, because it definitely wasn't the fall, and they had to make it really look fall. Like they did a really good job. Halloween 6 was obviously filmed around that timeline, or around that time, I should say. And I like it. There was a brutality to Michael in that as well. I really, really like that, his character in that film. One of the greatest kill scenes in any, actually two of the greatest kill scenes now that I think about it, because I love the scene where Michael is chasing the older lady around. So he's chasing her around like the backyard of the Myers house. Like they're living in the Myers house. I wish they would have changed that. Like I wish it would have actually looked like the Myers house.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's like he's that, like this asshole dad is the he was a realtor, and his wife finds out that they're living in the Myers house, and she's like putting the pieces together, and she goes, I now, is this why we got this house so cheap? Because you didn't tell us that this was what had happened here. And I love that whole idea. But eventually Michael ends up, even as she's talking on the phone, Michael's like standing in the background, like you see him standing back there, and he ends up chasing her through the backyard. And then there's a scene where she's like falls down on the ground, and she's laying in like the grass with like the bed sheets all around her, and he's got this freaking axe, and he just picks it up and swings it, and just boom, and you see the blood splatter. Like I think that's such a fantastic kill scene. And then also there's like in the hospital, there's this scene where Michael picks up this long goddamn knife that looks like it's like a 16-inch blade. I don't know what the hell they're doing, what kind of surgeries they're doing, but he goes in and he freaking just like slaughters everybody, all these doctors and nurses and all these people that are in like this operating room. And like it's like got like the strobe light effect going on, and you're like just seeing bits and pieces of it. And it was just so well done. I loved it. Paul Rudd, like you said, I think he was a fantastic, is like, it even introduces him as like Paul something Rudd. Like I think they use his middle name in it or something. I mean, it's like, but they just did it. They did a fantastic, or he did a fantastic job in that. Like the character that he brought of Tommy Doyle to life far more than what they did in Halloween Kills with the Tommy Doyle character there. But yeah, that's where Halloween 6 ends up for me on the list.
Nice. So that was your number 5. And it's getting dicey over here for me.
Yes, sir.
For me, a top 5 pick goes to the very controversial Halloween Ends.
Nice.
I can't tell you, and I know there are people, and we're going to get comments or whatever. And listen, I understand that you're upset with the way this movie went. It wasn't what the other two were, and I get that. We were set up for something different, and yes, a lot of the marketing was about this final battle between Laurie and Michael. You get that, but you also get this like really interesting story about what Michael Myers has done to the town, and more so than you do in Kills. I know that's people are going to say that's what the point of Kills was, because they ended up turning the town into a monster of its own. But I think with Ends, you really get it in a way more subtle way than "Evil dies tonight," angry mob. The way that they treat Corey, the way that they treat somebody who quote unquote murdered somebody. I think right off the bat, the scene where Corey accidentally kills the kid was gut-wrenching right off the bat to watch that. Wasn't expecting, and I mean, I knew I saw the spoilers way before the movie came out, but I wasn't expecting it to be that brutal. And it really set the tone for like how serious this guy's case is, and how horrible, what trauma he's gotten from this. And I think the way that they did this movie was so great. I loved that they took a shot with it. Michael Myers, if you want to get pissed that he's old and shaky in a cave, that's fine. But then you see how he grows, and once he starts killing again, he's back at it. By the time he faces Laurie, you're not dealing with the shaky old man. You're dealing with the same Michael Myers that's in Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. I love the way they took out Michael in that movie. The meat grinder was great. There's no crushed larynx of a paramedic in this version. That is Michael Myers. They take his mask off, and everything that they did in Kills that I didn't like, where they make him this supernatural figure that's larger than life, they bring back down and they go, he's just a man. Mm-hmm. And yes, he's the shape. I love that he's more, that he is the embodiment of evil. But at the end of the day, he's just a man. And I love the way that they did that. I thought the town kind of coming together to watch him die was really great. And it was kind of it was really morbid that everybody wanted to see this. But at the same time, you kind of went, yeah, I mean, it was like seeing a war criminal get murdered on TV or whatever. Like, people wanted to get on with that. And,
right. They wanted to know he was dead.
Right, exactly. And they needed that closure to see it themselves. I loved the imagery of him kind of like laying there and getting, crowd surfing to the meat grinder. It was a really, I know so many people are going to be pissed that this is my top 5 and they're going to go, oh, I'm not going to listen to you. You don't know anything about Halloween. I love this series more than anything. And Halloween Ends is just another entry of something I truly love.
I couldn't agree more. And as you're talking about it, I'm like, God damn, maybe it should have been higher up on my list. Cause I love it too. I mean, I understand, like you said, people are pissed off about it. I understand why they're mad. But I like it. What can I say?
I think this is one of those movies where in 10 years, people are going to have a different opinion about it than they do right now. It's shocking right now. But I think in 10 years, people can maybe learn to appreciate it for what it is. And what it is something I love.
Yeah.
So what's number 4 for you, man?
So number 4 is going to be 1982's Halloween 3. I am a huge fan of this movie. Very, very huge fan of this movie. Like you, it took me a while before I got into it. And I hadn't even, I bought Halloween 3 as a DVD 2-pack with, it was part 2 and part 3 were
weird combo.
Totally weird combo, but I don't remember where I got it at, but they came together, and I thought I liked it, man. I thought it was, at first I was kind of like, well, obviously Michael's not in it, but I liked it. And then there was like this whole, like you said, this almost like resurgence of Halloween 3. And I started watching a little bit more and sort of separating my mind in a way. Like, okay, don't think of this as like a Halloween Michael Myers movie. Think of it as Season of the Witch. And I know that's been talked about so many times that they should have just called it Season of the Witch and not Halloween 3. And it would have been a fantastic movie. And we would have been talking about it as one of the greatest horror movies or Halloween horror movies and, ever. But people didn't like it because it didn't have Michael Myers, which is obviously why they had to do the return of Michael Myers in part 4. But I loved it. I mean, the soundtrack, like you mentioned, like the soundtrack is awesome. The opening obviously inspired our opening. Like there's just so much to it that was awesome. And we will absolutely take a really hard look, deep dive into this. We'll end up doing some audio commentaries on the movies as well. And, but I love it. I mean, it's a great story, and as like sacrilegious as this is to say, like, I kind of wish somebody would take a crack at remaking it, because I think there could be some really cool things that were done to it if done right. And as much as I shit on like Rob Zombie's films, I was almost kind of hoping that he was going to do a remake of Halloween 3, because it just sort of fits the mold of things that he kind of might be into. I know he has done a sci-fi movie. He did that cartoony sci-fi movie, whatever the hell that was called. But then there's obviously the horror piece. And I just think there's more that could be done to it. And to bring it in today's day and age, I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, Halloween 3, I absolutely love it. Watch it every year. I look forward to watching it every year. I actually watch this. I watch Halloween 3 on October 30th, the night of October 30th, every single year. That's when I watch it. But fantastic. Can't say enough good things about it. And it's just tough, man. You get down to the end like this, and you have to put these movies somewhere, and that's where that one ends up on my list.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think Halloween 3 for me, it's it's such a great movie. If you were to tell me 10 years ago that this would be in my top 6, I wouldn't have believed you, but it is well worth opening your mind up for that one. For me, number 4 goes to 2018's Halloween. We've talked about it, and I love the way that they brought back Michael. I too was a little taken back when I watched it the first time. I think it's unmistakably a Blumhouse movie, and I don't really know how to say that. It's just the vibe that Blumhouse movies sort of give off. And I think I had to kind of adjust to that. There was an adjustment period, but I learned to really love so much about this movie. I think the Shape Hunts Allison, probably the best.
Oh, so good, so good.
The original, incredible. I love the 3 generation of Strode, and sort of the one thing I will say is, yeah, I too prefer the Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie Strode character in H2O. It feels a lot more realistic to me than this woman who spent 40 years basically training like Rambo for the return of a guy that killed like 4 people or whatever.
Right.
That part was tough, but I get why they had to do that, especially the way it sets up sort of the other movies, and sort of the trauma that she brought on to her child and then eventually her grandchild, grandmother, as Allison called
dude, that drove me nuts. Like I realize that there are people out there who say like grandmother, but like I don't know, it was just so weird sounding to me, so formal, like grandmother. My grandmother, like it was like 1870 England or something, you know. It was just like, I don't know.
Did you invite grandmother? Yeah,
right.
No,
it was odd. It was odd.
But yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I think the movie is great. I think they did what they needed to do to bring back a trilogy. They set up the tone wonderfully. Love Michael in this movie. I think he's brutal. I think he's stalker. The scene once Michael's back in Haddonfield on Halloween night, where you just follow him from house to house, murdering people, and it's not vicious. It's just quick, and right. It's perfect. Michael, that is Michael Myers to me.
Right, he was just a killing machine. Like he walked into that one house, he freaking grabs the knife off the counter, or well, first off, he walked in, he grabbed the hammer out of the shed or out of the garage, whatever it was. He walks in, he freaking smokes the lady that you see, kind of an off cop camera death, and then he walks up and you think he's gonna whack the baby. I was like, oh shit, this is about to get rough, and then he doesn't, obviously, but then he walks into the next house, and that like girl is like looking out the window, and he's just like shink, like freaking right through her goddamn back of her neck. And it was like, damn, okay, Michael is back. That is freaking cool.
That was when I was watching Halloween 2018. I was kind of waiting for that. There is sort of a feeling that I search for in all the Halloween movies when Michael's just like walking down the streets of Haddonfield in a neighborhood, murdering people. And that scene, and then the scene where the Shape Hunts Allison kicks up, where the kid gets the gate through his chin. Those 2 scenes, I was like, yep, we're back. Michael Myers is back the way he should be.
Yep.
So let's get into the top 3 here, man.
Top 3, man. They're all the same. I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, they are. I didn't even realize that.
No, I've been like paying attention. I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna be down to the top 3. Okay, so I'm gonna here's what we're gonna do. If I name the same top 3 or like the third, I want you to just so number 3 for me is Halloween 4.
Yep, we got the same top 3.
Okay, all right, and then let's just do this. And then number 2 for me is Halloween 2, and then obviously the last one is going to be Halloween. Is that how yours ends as well?
Yep, that's exactly how my list. That's pretty good. I didn't know for you if 4 would be above 2, because I know you love 4 so much, but I didn't know if that.
Wait, hold on. No, I got to look at my list once. Oh my God, it is. I fucked up. It is Halloween 2. It's Halloween 2, and then Dude, thank you. I didn't even know my own list. So yes, it is. So Halloween. So it's Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 78.
Yep.
So okay, so this is the final list. So let's start out. Okay, we'll just hit Halloween 3, or I'm sorry, Halloween 2, because it's my number 3. Fantastic movie. Like, just that follow-up direct sequel to 1978 Halloween, how it starts out, we're back on Halloween night in 1978. You don't even know what death is. You know, he's got like that, like you got Loomis running around like a madman trying to find out what's going on, where Michael went. And it's awesome. Like, I didn't care for necessarily like how Lori went from being like this kind of meek and mild girl to like this super badass who was fighting the boogeyman, to back to being like this meek and mild character again in Halloween 2. I didn't really like that. Like, I kind of wanted her to still be this, like I wanted her to fight back, and she does eventually. But I thought she did change a little bit between the two. I Dick Warlock in this movie is, Dick Warlock as himself as Michael Myers, does a really cool job, and there's some people that really like him as Michael Myers. Not my favorite personally. I think he just walks a little bit too slow for me, and he's like too methodical in what he does, especially coming from Nick Castle, who in my opinion was the best Michael Myers of them all. So to go from that to Dick Warlock, again, not knocking Dick Warlock at all, because he did an awesome job playing him. It was different, and I didn't necessarily care for like the slowness of him. But overall, I absolutely love this movie. I watched this one on Halloween night as well. So I watched Halloween 1978, followed by Halloween 1981. And the way it usually works out for me is or Halloween 2, 1981. The way that it usually works out for me is that like right around midnight, I'm actually ending Halloween 2, and the Enter Sandman song is playing like it does at the end of the movie. And that. Oh, Mr. Sandman, not Enter Sandman.
That would be sick.
That would be sick. If we ever remake Halloween 2, that is absolutely what we're gonna do. It's gonna be Enter Sandman by Metallica.
Yeah, Metallica.
Mr. Sandman, not Enter Sandman, is playing, and that's how my November 1st starts. It's always the same. So it's in a way that song kind of brings on some sad feelings for me, because it's like Halloween is over. Not both in the movie obviously, but then obviously in real life. So go why don't you go to your number 3, and then we'll toggle back and forth here.
Yeah, so Halloween 4 for me is amazing. It's the quintessential sort of sequel, and I say that because Halloween 2 feels more like, to me, a continuation of the first movie. Halloween 4 is really on its own. It sort of sets up the recipe for a lot of the sequels that follow, where somehow Michael's back, and he's back and he's killing people. I think outside of the mask, even though I've got it right here, not a huge fan of the way it looks. It kind of looks like Michael, like, I don't love that he's got eyebrows. He looks like he just shit his pants, but he as a figure in that movie is so threatening. He's just as like stiff as ever in Halloween 2. Love that they did the bandage mask in that movie, but more so, I think my favorite thing about that movie is just the vibe, the way that they capture the feeling of Halloween. And I know you're going to talk about it too, because that opening scene, we talked about it in the first episode. It's incredible, and it sets the stage for the movie. And I think they did a great job, and sort of a realistic take on how I think it's one of the more realistic takes on how a town would respond to something like this. Like, they go on lockdown, and everybody's kind of in their houses with guns and ready for this. And yeah, no, I have nothing. The top 3 movies here are 10 out of 10s for me. I have nothing wrong to say about Halloween 4.
I agree. Well, you just like literally took the words out of my mouth. Like, Halloween, any of these movies are like, I've died and gotten to heaven if I'm watching them, right? I mean, they're just so well done. And I couldn't agree with, obviously, Halloween 4 is my number 2 choice. Starting out with the opening, like, goddamn, like, that is just it is so ominous, and like it feels like Halloween. Like, when you are watching that, it feels like Halloween. And I love it. I agree that his mask is not great in Halloween 4. I think, honestly, if his mask was better, in Hal, if he had like the original mask in Halloween 4, dude, that might be
tough.
that might be enough to put it over the edge for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I love Halloween 78. It clearly finished number 1 on my list. They had changed the mask, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I might change it up a little bit. Like, I love the feeling, the vibe of the movie. Danielle Harris as introduced that new character. Ellie Cornell as Rachel. It was just so good. Like, it was like, if you want to have a sequel, dude, they hit that one out of the park. Like, no wonder so many people don't like Halloween 5, because Halloween 4 was just so damn good. Like, it was awesome. It was just an awesome movie. And yeah, dude, Halloween 4, it ends up as that number 2 on my list.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it's Halloween 2 at that 2 spot. You said a lot of what I agree with about Halloween 2. I think it's great. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Dick Warlock. I love the way he moves in that movie. And it's cool that, like, a lot of it was just kind of like visual tricks to make Michael seem like bigger and more threatening. Because Dick Warlock isn't a very, he's not a big dick. He's kind of a small dick. And but they made him look, pretty menacing in that movie. But I love the way the mask looks, because it's the original, but it's more beat up. I don't know. I love the vibe of Halloween 2. I think they did it in a really interesting way where it doesn't feel like just a repeat of the first movie. It's got its own swag because it's in a hospital. And I just love it. It's a continuation of the first movie, and obviously number 1 is number 1 for both of us.
Yeah.
So
you
anything that's a continuation.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, I knew, I was not surprised that our top 3 were the same. I knew that obviously our number 1s were going to be the same. You're not going to beat the original. It is what it is. I mean, it set the standard for slasher films. It really inspired so many filmmakers to try to do exactly what John Carpenter did. And up until the Blair Witch Project was made, I mean, like, Halloween sat at the top of the list for like low budget horror movies that were made and that became very successful. There's so many great things to say. We literally don't even have to go into why we love it so much, because everybody who's probably watching this is agreeing with what we're saying right now, that, like, it is what it is. It's the best it's the best movie that there is.
Exactly. I think the lightning that was captured in a bottle in this movie is so, like, it's almost unreal. It's crazy to believe that they didn't know what they had when they were creating that. Everything was done so intentionally. I mean, the way that they chose Michael's mask, the way that John Carpenter sat in a room and created that score, it fits so perfectly. I don't think there's any better score in any horror movie, period, that can even rival John Carpenter's original score. And this is one guy. This movie is amazing, and it remains one of the best horror movies of all time, if not the best.
Right. It literally is my favorite movie of all time. Like, Halloween 1978, I just love it. I love it. Yeah. Like we talked about, I only watch it on Halloween night, so it adds that magic and has just a different vibe to it for me. And I love it. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason why we're sitting here talking is because this movie was made, and it's just a fantastic movie. Again, we're going to do a deep dive into it. It probably is going to end up being like a multi-part deep dive, I'm going to guess, because there's just so much to unpack and look at. But it's John Carpenter's Halloween.
Enough said. Yeah.
Enough said. No, I'm very, like, if I were to, like, if you had asked me, an hour and a half ago before we started filming this, what your list was going to be, I don't think it would have been a little bit different than this. So this is surprising to me to hear kind of where you land with some of this. It is interesting how our lists are very, very similar, and it doesn't surprise me necessarily, because I feel like we talk about these movies so much, and I'm sure, my opinions influenced you and vice versa. So I'm sure, like, as you bring out, like, Halloween Ends, when you start talking about Halloween Ends, I'm just like, oh man, maybe I should have moved that thing down my list a little bit. But you can't go wrong with any of these. They're Halloween movies. I will take a new Halloween movie any opportunity that we get. I will take, in my opinion, a Rob Zombie's Halloween or an H8. I will take that every single time over not ever getting another Michael Myers movie again.
Dude, sign me up. I want the Buster Rhymes trilogy ASAP. If that means that's the only Michael Myers movies we're gonna get.
Yeah. Kung Fu Busta Rhymes, kicking ass, like, yeah, give me Busta all day long before I have to go a decade without a Michael Myers film. That actually reminds me. So I did a little math, which is not easy for me to do, but I did a little math today, and if my math is correct, which somebody out there should probably check it. So we've had 13 Halloween films. Okay, there's been 13 Halloween films. We are at the 45th anniversary. This year will be 45 years of the Halloween franchise. What that means is, on average, we are getting a new Halloween film every 3.5 years, essentially. So what that means is, hopefully by about 2025, given the fact that we just had Halloween Ends in 2022, hopefully by Halloween 2025, maybe Halloween 2026, we're going to be getting another Michael Myers movie. I'm going to cross every body part I possibly can, because I don't want this series to end. I don't want the franchise to end. I think there's so much more that can happen there. But yeah, I was like, man, I should try to figure out, like, what's the frequency of these movies in 3.5 years.
Yeah, you didn't tell me you were doing rocket science over there today, but yeah, no,
that's a book of surprises, dude.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's our list. Here's one final look at what we did. Let us know in the comments what your ranking is, where you put the different movies. Hit us up on Instagram, give us your list. We'll reach out and disagree or agree to disagree. And it's so interesting to see where things fall for everybody and why their opinions are so different. I know obviously our Ends is probably going to be the one that sort of separates us from a lot of people. But the series at the end of the day is amazing. And like you said, give me any of them.
Give me them all day long. Please, if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. Please give us a follow. Please give us a like. Hit us up on Instagram. It's at Halloween Lives Podcast, halloween.lives.podcast. Please subscribe on YouTube. Let us know that you like what you're seeing, what we're doing here. We will have a new episode next week. We have a guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet, because I just want to make sure that it goes through. But we do have a guest who's going to be coming on the show. I'm super excited to get him on, and I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. So this is a wrap for episode number 2 of Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening along. It's been a pleasure to share with you our lists, and there's a lot more to unpack here, and we're definitely going to take you guys along for the ride. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm Blaine Duncan. That is Austin Duncan, and we will see you guys next time.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.